In a recent Akashic Record Insights program, a participant asked this question: do we need signs to validate our spiritual connection, or are we already connected? Here's the response I received from the Akashic Records.
So, now I see why we waited for this question. So, based on what they just said about like the shifting layers and the reconnection or the disconnections and reconnections, a whole lot of what happens is that what we used to think of from that physical perspective, like show me a sign, for example, is that you move into an awareness that you're already connected and you don't really need a sign. Would be that would be the shift, like you're not questioning it. Like, is this real? Is this something I can experience? Is this something that I'm connected to? You move past that kind of concern and you just know that it is. And so then it's really more about understanding what your process, what your experience is, and trusting that, as opposed to it, like it has to be one way, or it has to be, like what somebody said they do it as. Because in moving to this more, let's say, intuitive, let's say mystical kind of perception of the world, what happens is that you well, it's really like you move out of destination thinking. That's really what that's probably the best way to say it, is that you move out of looking into the future and you become more focused on what's present to you, what's possible in this moment. And you become more comfortable with the idea that your way doesn't have to be like everybody else's way. I mean, you can learn, like you can learn things from people, but you learn them not because their way is the only way. You learn it because that's what helps you get to your way. Right. In a certain sense, like in Cheryl language, that's like very much about understanding about divine assistance from the inside out instead of the outside in. That makes sense, Cassie? Do you have any questions for me about that?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, essentially you're saying, what is the intention of what you're seeking for validation versus being the validation and allowing it come to you. It's just an observation, because I think there's a part of my soul that is coming to realize, like, for example, when I wanted the dog so bad, I had such an obsessed thought pattern there that I literally had an experience where this dog's name was Marty. And then I asked for signs. I saw different signs. And then the day I was supposed to make this decision on the dog, a client sat in my chair, and her daughter's name was Marty. And all of these things were like, yeah, get the dog. And I physically couldn't get the dog. I physically could not say yes. And so I feel like there was a juxtapose there where I was so attached to it. My focus was so strong. I brought in all the symbols, but my higher oversoul knew to say, I know you have a deep need right now, but I don't think that this is the best solution for you right now. So my mind has kind of shifted. My soul has kind of shifted to how powerful we are, that when we're asking for a symbol, again, we're diluting our power out to something where we have to ask ourselves, well, what is the deeper need? Where do you need acknowledgement? Where do you need self-care or self-love or what have you? And if you're not trusting the answer, then there's support out there for you, but looking for an eagle in the sky or a specific yellow balloon on a red car isn't really necessarily the path.
Yes. And all of those like sign things get experienced by people as this is the way I live the perfect life, right? The way that I know that I am good enough, spiritual enough, or whatever is because I get the signs. And then you have people that teach that that's the way you live your life is by doing all of that, right? So it sets the whole thing. You get set up usually for disappointment because especially if you're somebody who is experiencing, let's say, the deeper parts of life, and you're moving into, like present moment awareness, and you're moving out of being limited by thinking everything in sort of like linear chronological kinds of terms, then you are opening the door for possibility to come to you in a way that actually can never be described, with absolute certainty. Because you're moving, right? Like that's moving into the unknown. That's living your life within the comfort of the uncertainty instead of demanding to live within what will only feel like the comfort of certainty. And there isn't certainty. A whole lot of spiritual and religious traditions will want to tell us that there's enough, that there is spiritual certainty. But that's still a limited static view perspective of the reality that the infinite and the eternal lives at the threshold of the unknown, and therefore will be uncertain and will be ambiguous. And the quote unquote right answer doesn't exist. And it certainly isn't that the exact same answer for me is exact same answer for anybody else. So in a certain sense, the best, like say, I can do is to share what works for me, what's truth for me. And then other people hear that and they're like, oh yeah, actually that really helps me because that makes me think of this and I can let go of that or whatever. But for other people, it's like, nope, sorry, didn't do anything for me. But that doesn't mean that that's not my truth or that my truth is wrong. It just means that my truth isn't for that person.
Thank you for listening. This has been an episode of Akashic Records Insights. To join the next session, go to akashicrecordinsights.com.